You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look me better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper than again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Naruto Enters Lucifer? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of AngelFallenDemon on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Naruto sighed as he saw Mizuki peeking into the room and looking over at Sasuke and then over to Naruto. Something doesn't feel right about the way he is looking at us, thought Naruto as Kurama opened his eye looking at what his vessel was looking at. Keep an eye on him for he stinks of snakes, said Kurama as he looked up at the classroom window Naruto was sitting at. Alright people. Today is the big day, said Irika as he walks into the classroom as he looked at the fighting fangirls. His head took on a larger from as he yelled. Shut the H up and take your seats your little rats. He yelled frightened the girls as they ran to their seats. Irika walked around the room handing out the test as Mizuki sat at their desk and was looking over a clipboard. I'll get Sasuke and Naruto and take them to Mstr Orochimaru, he thought to himself with a mental smirk to himself. After an hour all the students handed in their test papers and sat back chatting as Irika took his time grading all the papers. He smiled as the clan heirs had does so well. Even the lazy Nara heir did a lot better than expected. It appears that Naruto and Sasuke might be tying for Rookie of the Year. Alright kiddies, let's head outside and get the Taijutsu part of the exam over with, said Irika as he led them out the training field behind the academy. Inside the Hokage's office all the Jonin senseis stood around the Hokage's crystal ball watching all the kids and seeing who worked best together and who to keep away from each other. Back to the training field where Kurama was woken up by Naruto dropping down next to him. Hey Rama. Kurama opened his eye and looks over at Naruto and his friends who all sat around him. Hey kids, he said with a large yawn. Irika looked over at Naruto's lazy uncle who was always 5 steps behind the young boy. Hello Kurama-san. Are you here to watch how well young Naruto will do today? He asked the red-headed man. Kurama looked over at the teacher with lazy eyes. Nah. I just fell asleep after dropping the brats all off, he told Irika who just sweat dropped at the man before him. Alright brats, listen up. You will be facing off against Mizuki. You must last 5 minutes in the ring with him or knock him out of it. If you are knocked out of the ring you will only get half of 30 points and if you knock him out or KO, you will get 20 bonus points, said Irika as he looked at all his students. Naruto smirked along with Sasuke who was sitting in the tree away from his rabid fangirls. Maze and Trixie had long ago scared Naruto's fangirls from following him home and trying to kidnap him. But that was a memory for another time. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts as he looked Mizuki over. Yeah, I really don't want him touching me in our spar, he told Kurama as he looked over at his uncle. I'll see what I can do when it comes to your turn, said Kurama with a glare and oddly evil smirk mixed together. Naruto just nodded his head and relaxed back against the tree. Ino, Shikamaru and Hinata just shared a look. They had always found it weak how those two could talk without saying a word or really look at each other. The 3 girls just sighed at their antics and shook their heads and turned back to the spars going on before them. Many of the civilian girls went flying out of the ring within 30 seconds of entering the ring. At least he is doing his job and showing them that they need to get stronger to make it out in the field or just would be stains in the background to those who will making it in the real world. So far for all the clan children had gotten their full points, for they stood their own against the Chunin. After that night they had been returned home. Their parents had gone overboard in training them and pushing them to over their limits and made sure by time they left the academy they all would be low chunin or high genin, just depend on what skills the kids needed to learn from their clans. This had also frightened Jiraiya, who had the boy sign the toad contract the second he returns to the village from his mission. Along with the toad contract, Naruto also got his mother's contract with Arctic Wolf Pack and Dire Wolf Pack. Holding these 3 contracts helped the boy enter Sage mode by the time he was 12 years old for each summons. He spent more time with the wolf summons, for they helped in training in tracking and hunting. While he spent time with the toads to hear stories about his father and learn several sealing and several other things. But on his 15th birthday Naruto had gotten into a drinking contest with all 3 boss summons, and to the displeasure of Kurama. Naruto had won, but Kurama made him pay for it for about 3 days. He learned the next day that hangovers were AB and wouldn't drink again until he was much older, and Kurama has fun reminding him each time when the 3 bosses wanting rematches. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Called Iruka. Naruto looked over at Kurama. As Kurama stood up from where he was laying down at. "I'll take Mizuki's place. He must be tried from dealing with all those brats," he said with a smirk. Mizuki just nodded his head. The clan kids had given him a good workout and he didn't really want to go up against Naruto, and Hinata had left him feeling sore for her attacks. "Alright kid. No holding back," said Kurama with a smirk. Naruto nodded his head to the man. "Alright Rama," he said with his own foxy grin. Both vanished before everyone as their fist met as they stood in the middle of the ring. Iruka and Mizuki watched with wide eyes. They had moved so quickly they couldn't even follow their movement. This might be a little harder than I first thought. Sasuke will be putting up a good fight if I try taking him and Naruto. I don't even want to try to get that boy, he thought to himself with fear in his eyes. 5 minutes later, as the buzzer went off, Naruto went flying out, 2 seconds later hitting the tree behind him. Iruka ran over to the boy making sure he was okay. "Naruto. Are you alright?" he asked. Naruto jumped back up and ran at Kurama ready to keep fighting. But stopped when Kurama held up his hand, stopping the boy in his tracks. "That is enough, and answer your sensei's question," said Kurama as he smirked, seeing the boy was ticked off and wanting to keep going. But he nodded his head and turned to look at Iruka. "Yeah sensei, I'm alright," he told the man before him. Iruka just looked at the ebony hair boy with shock and fear in his eyes. "Are you sure you don't need to see the nurse or something?" he questions once more as he walked over to the boy. "Yeah, sensei, I'm alright. This was nothing. Sparing at home is a lot worse than what you saw here today. Kurama-sensei was going very easy on me," said Naruto as he gave his teacher a foxy grin. All Iruka could do was nod his head along with Mizuki, as his plans have totally been derailed from what he just witnesses at this moment. Kurama turned to Iruka with his own foxy grins. "If you like, I can finish the sparing part of the exam with the Uchiha boy and Yamanaka girl," he offered the stunned man. "Are you sure about that, Kurama-sama?" asked Iruka as he had the look of fear in his eyes. "Yeah, it will be fine. I have already sparred with them in the past. So, they know what to expect from me," explained Kurama as Sasuke walked into the sparring ring. "Kurama-sensei, just remember I'm not like you and the dope. So, don't try to kill me," said Sasuke as he looked annoyed over at his friend and back at the crazed redhead before him. Kurama gave him a dismissive wave as he got ready to push the boy and see where his standing was. For it has been 6 months since he could get the boy to spar with him. For last time he almost broke the boy in half, last time with just a gentle axe kick. Gentle to Kurama was the term like a bull in a china shop. "Alright, you two. Go," said Iruka with fear in his voice. Both fighters studied each other as Sasuke made the first move. Sasuke tried a spinning axe kick as he launched himself up in the air. He was trying to use the sun to blind Kurama. But this boy was sadly wrong as Kurama grabbed his leg and spun him to the tree that was in the ring. Sasuke's voice slammed hard as spit and blood came out of his mouth as he slowly pushed himself up off the ground as he wiped his mouth with his right arm and spit out whatever blood that was lingering in his mouth and glared at Kurama. "Bstrd. You're having fun toying with me?" growled out Sasuke as he glared at the tall man. Kurama just chuckled at this. "Who's to say I was or not?" he told the boy. Sasuke's fan club screamed and yelled at the man. "You cheater! You're trying to hurt out Sasuke Kun." They kept screaming until they began fighting with each other over who the boy belongs to. Sasuke looked at the girls with fear as he looked over at Kurama with a look. "Please just kill me now," he had in his eyes. Irika saw this and shook his head at the boy. Sasuke also saw this but just sighed, slowly nodding his head. Yeah, he couldn't take the easy way out. He really needs a girlfriend or something. Maybe then they would leave him alone. But hell, who was he kidding? That would never happen. The fight went on and Sasuke lasted the full 5 minutes. But he was limping out of the ring. For Kurama wasn't going to allow the boy to get away unhurt. Ino smiled at Kurama. He knew that smile and he would have to move quick before she tried entering his mind again. She has tried several times. But luckily, he always got away from her. "Don't you even think about little girl?" he growled out at her as his eyes flashed giving her a warning. Ino swallowed hard and nodded her head. Irika looked at them both puzzled and voiced himself. "What is going on here? I was planning to take over his mind. But I haven't been able yet. But he has warned me if I try and I do get in he will lead me to the pits of hell and scare me to death," said Ino as she looked away. Irika just nodded his head. "Okay, you two. Go," he told them. Ino went in with a reverse spin kick to Kurama's head. But he caught her leg and pushed her away as she went spinning to the other side of the field. Ino smirked as she ran at him with a raised fist, which Kurama caught with his left hand as he held her right hand. "You are getting better, little girl. But you still have a lot more to work on. I think you will need to come and spar with Trixie after you are placed on your team," he told her. "Yeah, I saw Trixie this morning and she told me the same thing. She even said bring Shika with me as well for she kept saying that the future wife of Naruto needs to be able to fight like a demon to protect herself and their future children," said Ino with a wink and a smirk at her two friends who were both blushing up a storm and looking away from each other as their group of friends laughing at the two young love birds. Kurama just smirked at this. "That is true. She goes need to get stronger," he said as he winked at Shika. Naruto grumbled to himself. "Ero Kitsune," looking away as he blushed even brighter. The fight finished with Ino flying out as the buzzer went off. She was caught by Naruto as he glared at Kurama. "Man, you know you need to go easier on the girls. Or I'm telling Maze on you again." Kurama just rolled his eyes as he walked over to the tree and sat down. Irika cleared his throat and looked everyone over and smiled. "Well done everyone. Let's go inside to finish the last part with the ninjutsus," he ordered them in. Everyone went back inside as Kurama returned to his nap and ignored his jailer yelling at him mentally. "JRK, why did you have to put us in the spotlight? You do know my fan club is going to go after her now. I don't want one of my friends hurt because of those crazy girls and several guys." Naruto was always scared after he found out guys even wanted him. That wasn't his cup of tea. Maybe he could send them to Sasuke. For no one knows if he likes girls or boys. After they all entered the classroom and took their seats, Irika went down the list and Naruto just closed his eyes for a nap as he knew he was going to be next to last for this part and didn't care to listen. But he awoke from time to time as he heard one of his or Sasuke's fan club members coming out crying for they didn't pass, or when one would scream and yell about the power of love that they are meant for one of the two boys. Both boys knew they just wanted to keep the hell away from those crazed girls/boys scared them. True stalkers, and the little pieces of paper they had severed on many of them have proved to do little to nothing to save them. Maybe now with them becoming shinobi there was more laws on stalkers to help keep them safe. They could only hope. It was finally Naruto's turn as he walked into the classroom as he could feel someone pumping churka his way. Kurama opened a lazy eye and smirked as he was going to F with this white-hair man. Kurama pumped his churka back into Mizuki, locking him in a hellfire inferno genjutsu, making the man screaming from his seat next to Irika. Irika looked at Mizuki puzzled as to what the hell was going on. Mizuki fell to the ground foaming at the mouth, for Kurama had locked him into the genjutsu. Irika looked on with fear. "I think the sun must have gotten to him or something," said Naruto as he created 2 shadow clones to take the man to the nurse's office. Kurama smirked, making sure none of this would never come back on Naruto. Only that Mizuki had a mental snap and all the stuff he had planned was pushed forward for when a Yamanaka would mind walk him to find why he snapped. He made it look like something like a time trigger from Orochimaru. "That is what the BSTRD gets," said Kurama as he opens his eye from his shady tree. Irika was shocked that Naruto could make the solid clones. "When did you learn the shadow clone, Naruto?" he questions. "Auntie Maze taught me after she checked my chakra levels, and at the time, I was already at high Jonin. But now I'm at Kage or Sannin levels now. So, I will never be able to form the normal clone we learn here," explained Naruto. "Oh. Well, okay, you pass on that one. Now the other 2. said Irika. Naruto replayed himself with Kurama, who was annoyed that he lost the warm sun on his face and cool breeze in his hair. Then Naruto appeared next to him and made himself look like his father. "Well done. You pass," said Irika as he handed Naruto his forehead protector. Naruto smirked as he showed it to Kurama, who patted the boy on his head as Naruto went back to the classroom and tried it to his left bicep and sat down next to Shika as Kurama just smirked even more. After everyone had finished with their exam, Irika walked back into the room and looked at everyone. "For all of you who passed, I will see you here tomorrow morning for team assignment," he told them as everyone got up and left. All the clan heirs ran up to their families showing them they had passed, and the civilian parents just glared at Naruto for many different things. Some for he wouldn't give their daughters the time of day, and others who found out what was inside of Naruto. But mostly for the latter, for the boy was going to hold a lot of power once he came to age, and as he was royalty because of his mother being the princess of the land of Wave and his father being Hokage. He was the prince of the village. Hokage office. Both Trixie and Maze smirked as they saw their boy had passed and with flying colors. "Looks like our boy got Rookie of the Year for that little move," said Maze to Trixie, who just nodded her head and giggled. "What do you all think of your future students?" said Sarutobi as he took a puff of his pipe. Maze smirked. "If I get the team I want, then they did very well," she told the old man before her. "Yeah, I just want to be the co-captain with Maze, for I know she is like Anko, who needs to have fun in T&I or on missions," said Trixie as she giggled. Anko, who was behind the girl, just grinned. "What can I saw? It's always more fun with Maze," she said with a wink to Maze. Maze just grinned, and all the men drooled at the 2 women and stepped away in fear as well. For they never knew if the 2 were dating or just having fun with them and then attack them when they don't even know what was going on around them. Dropping your guard with those 2 was very deadly. Kakashi glares at Maze. "I want Naruto and Sasuke," he growled out at the man. She blew him a kiss. "Not on your life, buddy. They will be mine," she told him with an evil glint in her eyes. Kakashi looked over at the Hokage, hoping for some type of help from their leader. "I'm sorry, Kakashi, but you will not be getting Naruto. For it was a deal I worked out with Maze and Kurama. They both wanted family with the boy, and they believe you would favor Sasuke more for the promise you made his late brother," said Sarutobi as he sighed. "But Hokage-sama, I wouldn't do that. Naruto was my sensei's son and it should be me training him." Kakashi whined. "Hell no," said Maze as she glared at him. He is my nephew and you would be too lazy to train him right. You're always late and never take anything serious when it comes to training and other things, and that is something we are unable to allow to happen. She told him as Kakashi was in the corner sulking in the corner drawing small circles on the floor as everyone looked on with shock. No one has ever talked to him in that way. Until today. After that tongue lashing that was given to Kakashi. All the future senseis left the office looking over the files of their students and hopeful future genin of their village. Hell. Lucifer sighed as he saw his son passed and what happened with Mizuki. That bstrd really tried, didn't he? He asked his wife as Kushina as having fun stabbing Danzo repeatedly. Danzo screamed in pain as he glazed at the king of hell. You bstrd. I knew there was something wrong with you. Said Danzo between screams as he is panting. You DMN woman. I always knew you were a demon. He told Kushina. But Kushina smirked at him as white angelic wings came from her back. To be truthful, I am an angel. But I wanted to stay with the man I love and married those years ago. She told Danzo as his single eye widened with horror at the sight before him. Are you going to tell me now what happens you had with Orochimaru and Madara? Questioned Lucifer as he looked away from his son and his friends. What do you care what happens to that god-forsaken village? You're here in hell. Said Danzo as he glared. Lucifer smirked at the old Cyclops. I matters to me for my son is in that village and I do hold a little love for it. He said as Kushina smirked as she stabbed the man once more. Orochimaru wants to bath the village in hellfire so it can be remade in my image of what a shinobi should truly be. Said Danzo as he smirked to himself. Lucifer just laughs. Do you honestly believe he would allow you to rule over a village he burns to the ground, probably killing all that live in the village, and those that you had hidden in your root bases wouldn't have been enough to rebuild the ruins of that village? He told the old fool. Danzo looked at him with shock. Would Orochimaru double-cross him? Kushina looked at him with a knowing look. You know he would have. How foolish were you? Were you so drunk in your self-claimed power? He questions him. Danzo never said a word, just glaring at the two before him. You DMN old fool. I can't believe you bought in on that DMN snake's lies. Said Lucifer as he slammed his fist on his desk. This made Danzo jump a little, for he wasn't this reaction from the man before him. Kushina walked over to her love and placed her hand on his shoulder. It will all be fine. Just send the hellhounds to Sakumo with a message about the attack during the Chunin exams and how the Suna are foolishly taking part with Odo. Said Kushina as she looked at Danzo as he turned away from them. He knew he failed. His lust for the hat had led him to the downfall of his home, the place he said he would protect from anything and anyone. For he had done down a very dark path that day. Sarutobi, who was chosen to be Hokage by their sensei. You DMN old fool, you have no idea what you have done to that village you have claimed to love oh so much. You have doomed them. I only hope this message gets to them soon and the old man listens to Sakumo. Said Lucifer as he was growing tired of all this bullshit. I do not know nothing about Madara. The one you would need to speak with would be Orochimaru, for he was part of that little fan club that is hunting for all the tail beast. Said Danzo. For he knew he had already given them everything he knew and was no use to them anymore. So, he believed. Tell me the plan of entry that DMN Snake and his men would be taking to get in. Said Lucifer. He wanted to know everything he could get. Anything to keep his son safe any way he can from hell. Danzo looked at him with shock. How do you know I even know anything about his plan of attack? He asked. Lucifer looked at him as if he was a moron. Come on Danzo. Do you take me for a fool? I know you know how he was going to get in and his plan of attack. Danzo sighed and began telling Lucifer everything as a demon wrote it all down. After Danzo was finished, another demon came and took him away as Lucifer ordered for that information to be sent to Sakumo and as soon as possible. Sakumo. Sakumo sat in the backyard in one of the many gardens. He was quietly meditating, mixing his chakra with his demonic energy. This would make his attack much deadlier, and he shifts to only take less than a second to happen. But he was pulled from his meditation as his hellhound Ruby came running to him. She held a scroll in her mouth, and he saw Lucifer's seal on it. So, he knew something big was going to be happening for Ruby to be in a solid form from her shadow form. "What does he send me, girl?" Sakumo asked her. Ruby dropped the scroll before her masters. "MSTR has information on that snake. He will be attacked in about 6 or 7 months from now. In that Chunin exam thing they hold here every so often," she informed him. Sakumo nodded his head as he stood up and opened the scroll. He wanted to make sure there wasn't anything in there just for him before he would go to the Hokage and Jonin commander and dragon on this information. He saw nothing for him and how one of his spies caught one of Danzo's men and he sang like a bird. For the cursed seal on his tongue was now gone. Quickly getting to his feet, Sakumo walked back to the main house and grabbed his Jonin vest and put it on and out the door, where he saw Maze and Trixie coming his way. They both saw the scroll in his head. They both knew Lucifer had sent a message, and for Sakumo to be leaving the compound it meant it was something dealing with the village. They both figured that Danzo must have finally sang and told them everything about the snake and Madara. "There isn't anything about Madara. The old mummy knew nothing about him," said Sakumo as he shook his head and walked past the two. He made a beeline to the tower, where he saw Naruto and Sasuke both running away from their fan clubs. But the girls/boys appeared to be foaming at the mouth as they chased them. Naruto saw his uncle and ran to the werewolf demon and hid behind the man as Sasuke followed suit. "Please save us. They have gone mad, for they didn't make it into the shinobi program," cried Naruto as Kurama was sitting on a rooftop laughing his butt off at the scene before him. Sakumo shook his head at what was happening before him. The rabid teens before him. "You best be heading home, for you wouldn't like me when I'm mad," he said as his eyes flash amber. But they didn't care. They wanted their prizes, and this man wouldn't be standing in their way. Several made the mistake of attacking Sakumo as he transformed into his werewolf form. He let out a BLD chilling howl. This stopped the rabid teens in their spots, finally snapping out of whatever trance they had been in. Before them was a huge demon beast. Many screamed and ran away as others wet and shat themselves as they passed out where they stood. Umbu appeared and wrinkled their noses behind their masks. "Really? You had to scare them this bad?" asked Nico as she looked at the werewolf shifting shinobi before her. Sakumo shrugged his shoulders at the woman. "They were going after the boys again, and I feared they might hurt them this time," he said as he took a step to the left to show Naruto and Sasuke all wide-eyed with fear. Nico looked at the two boys and those that were passed out on the ground and back at the frightened boys and let out a sigh. "I'll let it slide this one time," she told them as the other took their respected teenager and returned them back to their homes, giving the parents a warning about their children need to stop their stalking of two of Leaf's newest genin. Naruto looked up at his uncle finally being snapped out of his fear. "Thank you for saving us again," he said sheepishly. Sasuke just nodded his head in agreement. "You two need to learn to frighten them away or something. Maybe get some girlfriends or something," said Sakumo as he looked at the two teens. Sasuke smirked at the man before him. "Naruto already has a girlfriend," he said with a laugh. "Shut up, team," said Naruto with a stutter. Sakumo raised an eyebrow to this, and Anke Kurama appeared before the man. "His little girlfriend is Shikamaru Nara," he said with a huge SHT-eating grin on his face. Naruto glared at him with murder in his eyes. "BSTRD." He mumbled to himself as this made Kurama laugh harder along with Sakumo. "She is very smart. I don't know what she sees in this little SHT," said Sakumo as he laughs harder as Naruto's eyes widen in shock and then turn to anger at the man before him. "You know you two are jackasses," said Naruto as he turned and walked away. Or more like stomped away from the two laughing men. Sasuke just smirks and runs after his friend. So, Ruby brought you something important? Asked Kurama as he eyed the scroll in the man's hand. Yeah. But it is mostly on that DMN snake. Nothing on the other BSTRD. Said Tsukumo as Kurama nodded his head to this. Alright then, I'll leave you to your mission and go watch over the boys. Said Kurama as he goes up in flames. Tsukumo just smirks and finally makes his way to the tower, where he saw Shikaku walking into the building. He ran up to the man. A man that I was hoping to find, he said to Shikaku. Said Nara looked over at the man next to him, lazily raising an eyebrow at him. Why would you want to be looking for me? He questions as he stopped the scroll in the man's hand and let out a long and lazy sigh. You got word on something that will impact the village and has put Jiraiya's own spy network to shame, he said as they both made their way up the stairs to the Hokage's office. Sarutobi sighed as he glared at his paperwork. Part of him wanted to set it on fire. But soon his replacement would be ready and then he would be done with this all. He was pulled his muse as there was a knock at his door. Come in. He called to whoever was on the other side. In walked both Tsukumo and Shikaku. He raises any eyebrow to this. What brings you two here? He asked them. I just got word from my summons Ruby from my spy network and I believe Dragon should be here for this. Said Tsukumo as Dragon appeared right next to them. What do you have for us? Asked Dragon. Tsukumo moved into the Hokage's office and took a seat in one of the armchairs before the old man's desk. Shikaku followed after the man, not sure what was waiting them from what the man next to him had to say. Dragon went and stood next to the aged leader. I got something here that you might not like. There were a few of Danzo's little roots left out in the world. Said Tsukumo as he handed the scroll over to Sarutobi as the old man took it and looked at the strange broken seal on it. He raised an eyebrow as he looked back at Tsukumo. So, your network has outdone Jiraiya's once more? Asked Sarutobi as he sighed and unrolled the scroll and began reading it. One could only laugh at all the reactions run across his face as Dragon read over his shoulder. Once he was done, he handed it over to Shikaku to read and he had a look of horror on his lazy face. So, what you have here is true. Then Danzo was truly a traitor and has been working with my traitor of a student for a very long time. For it also talks about how he wanted to put sleepers in the clans with the clan head's children. But I will have Inoichi and Jiraiya look for any seals and triggers once more. Said Sarutobi as he appeared to have aged another 30 years before them. Yeah. That would be a good idea. But I don't think he ever got around to doing that to the children for that night we attacked him. Said Tsukumo with a wolfish grin on his face. I do believe you are right. But it is good to just double-check to be safe. Said Sarutobi as he just wanted to bash his head against his desk a million times over. With this new development we are going to up the training of all the new genin teams. Said Shikaku as his lazy gaze looked at the other men in the office. As well we will have to up the training of the shinobi and ANBU of this village. We will not fall to that snake BSTRD and our allies that are siding with him. Said Dragon as he looked over at everyone. Well, I know how to fix what's going on with Suna. For their lord has been sending their missions to us. For he isn't pleased with Raza for what he did to his sister. Said Sarutobi as he looked up at Dragon. If we redirect those mission back to their village that could help some and maybe stop them from siding with Orochimaru. But that isn't a 100% guarantee though. Said Shikaku. He is right. Also that would tip our hand that we know something is up and the snake could move on us before we are ready. Said Tsukumo. What we need to do is act as if we are in the dark and maybe from time to time redirect a mission or two to them stating we would need their aid on it. He suggested as he looked at the other men as they nodded their heads. That would work. Also while we do that, we can sway them from siding with him and maybe even stepping back and aiding us. Said Sarutobi sounding hopeful. Even though he was a veteran of 2 of the 3 shinobi wars. He still held on to hope. Only time will tell, said Tsukumo. Team placement. It was the day that all the young genin hopeful had been waiting for. Naruto had gotten up early that morning for his normal morning training with his family. Trixie was standing in the kitchen looking outside as he watched Tsukumo and Mei's spar and Kurama just laid in a tree watching them. Naruto walked down the stairs and into the kitchen as he found his aunt. For the three angels had been sent off on missions for the village. "Good morning, Auntie Trixie," said Naruto as he smiled at her. Trixie turned around and smiled at the boy. "Good morning, Naruto-chan. Are you ready for today?" she asked him. "Yeah. I'm hoping to get a good team and a sensei that will teach me. For I kept hearing that Kakashi wanted me as his student, and what I heard around from others, he is always late for everything," said Naruto. Trixie nodded her head. "Yeah, he did. But Maze wouldn't hear of it and would have gutted him if he was your sensei and didn't teach you anything, as well was late for all your training," she told him. "Anyways, Sasuke is stuck with him. So don't worry," she told him with a smirk. Naruto laughed. "Better the team than me." He grinned as he made his way outside. He would eat something after training. For how hard they push him during their morning training, he would mostly get sick, and that wasn't something he was in the mood of reliving at the moment. Shinobi Academy. Everyone made their way into their classroom for one final time. All the fangirls/boys watched their two princes walk by them. Naruto took his seat in the far back last row as Sasuke took his normal seat in the middle row next to the window. After a while everyone filed in and chatter could be heard. Ino was sitting on Naruto's desk looking down at her fellow blonde. "So what team do you think you'll be on?" she asked him. He looked up at her. "I'm not sure. All I know for now, it isn't going to be with Sasuke, for he got a sucky sensei." Naruto snickered at that part. Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji arched an eyebrow at this as Hinata looked over at him. "How do you know that?" asked Ino. Wanted this little bit of gossip. "My Auntie Trixie told me," said Naruto with a grin. Just before Ino could laugh and anyone else could say anything, Irika walked into the classroom. "Alright people, sit down and listen up. I have your team placements," said Irika as Naruto spaced out. "It isn't too bad, brat. You have Maze and Trixie as your Jonin senseis and Shikamaru and Ino as your teammates," said Kurama as he was looking in the classroom window from his tree branch. "Yeah, I know. But I am shocked they gave me two girl teammates. But they both did tie for top kunoichi of the year, followed by Sakura, and I know she is going to be teamed with Sasuke, and I think it was Kiba who had the lowest of the grades, making him the dead last of our year. His mother is going to kill him for that." Naruto laughed to himself. Team 7 will be Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, Kiba Inuzuka with Akamaru. Your Jonin sensei would be Kakashi Hitaki, said Irika. "Yeah baby. The power of love. In your face I know pig," bellowed Sakura as she was jumping around. Both Kiba and Sasuke looked to be crying to have the loud banish on their team. "The worthless useless fangirl. That will be enough, Sakura. For I can have the Hokage change the team around," said Irika as a demon appeared behind him. This made Sakura shut up and sit down as she looked to be scared of the man. Team 8 will be Choji Akimichi, Hinata Hyuga, and Shino Aburame. Your Jonin sensei would be Kurenai Yuhi. Choji looked to be sad. For he thought he would be with his two best friends in the new generation of Ino Shikacho. But he guessed it wasn't meant to be this time around. "I'll be okay Choji, you have Hinata and Shino and they are really nice," said Ino as she smiled at her large friend. "Yeah you're right," said Choji with a smile. Final team will be Team 10. For Team 9 is still in rotation, said Irika as he looked up at the last remaining 3 that hadn't been called on. Team 10 will be Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, and your Jonin senseis will be Mei's and Trixie Namikaze. Said Irika with a smile. Why does the dope get 2 senseis? Asked Sasuke. Irika looked over at Sasuke. It's because Mei's also works in T&I and from time to time will not have time to train her team. So her sister Trixie will step in to train them for her. He told the raven hair boy. Well, your senseis will be here shortly, so be ready to move on out. Said Irika as he jumped out of the way as his classroom door exploded from a body being thrown through it. A silver hair man with 3/4 of his face being covered laid on his desk as he looked up to see both Mei's, Trixie, and Tsukumo grinning down at the down Kakashi. Boy, I hope that this lesson on being on time sticks with you. For I would be more than happy to be repeating it on a daily basis. Said Tsukumo as he stalked over to Kakashi as he stood over him. I know my younger brother taught you better than this. There isn't a reason to be late, and I'm sick and tired of those bullshit lines you use. If I hear from your genin you are late, and you tell them you took the long way because of a black cat, I will find that cat and ram it up your ass. He told the now even more pale Kakashi. Yes sir. I will be on time, I swear. Said Kakashi as he stood up and looked at the man before him with fear. Good to hear. Said Tsukumo as he turned to leave. He is just like my father. Thought Kakashi as he stood up and looked at all the genin hopefuls with shock and fear on their faces. Team 7, you are with me. He said as he made his way for the door. Team 7 got up and followed after their sensei, not knowing what to think. Naruto on the other hand was laughing. He really did what he said he was going to go do to him. Ino looked at him. You knew about this? She asked him. Well yeah. But we better go. For Mei's is glaring at us. Said Naruto as he got up followed by his 2 teammates. Uchiha District. Fugaku Uchiha with the clan elders and several others radical rebel members on their clan meet in their secret meeting spot under the clan shrine. Fugaku-sama. Are you sure it is wise to move against the village at this time? Asked one of the elders. Fugaku glared at the man. With Itachi forsaking the clan and becoming a missing ninja, what other option do we have? He questioned the same elder. Off in the shadows Ruby and the other hellhounds laid in wait for the time would come for them to kill these fools. For them trying to overthrow the village and take over wouldn't work for her MSTR nor his MSTR. She sat in her human form in the shadows holding a video camera recording everything these fools said. She was quite appealing. With dark chocolate brown hair, dark brown eyes, and stood about 5 feet 4 inches with an hourglass figure. Holly growled to Ruby. It's almost time. We just need a little more and we can kill them. She told her fellow hellhound. Holly nodded her head and went back to watching the foolish humans. Fugaku looked at everyone in the room. The third has grown too soft with his old age. We need a leader that will build this village back up to its former glory when Madara first found it with the Senju clan. But sir, that was during the Wearing clan times. It has been over 100 years and none of the clans or any one of the villages for that matter have been at war. Yes, we did come close with Danzo kidnapped all the heirs and tried blaming it on Kumo or another village. Said a young Uchiha boy. He will be one of the first we kill. For those who question me will die. Thought Fugaku. I know, and my youngest was part of the group of children kidnapped, and it was the Kami dammit Namikaze that he was returned safety to us. He said as he looked around. But we need to bathe the village in fire and brimstone to make it rise once again as the superpower it was in the past 3 wars. Said Fugaku. The others nodded their heads in agreement to this mad man they follow. Off in the shadows is a man with an orange spiral mask watching and laughing at his former clansmen. These fools. I'll slay them all soon. No one with this bloodline will live. He thought to himself as he vanished into a void. Ruby and Holly smelt and saw the man. Get to Lucifer and have him look for his former students in the afterlife. For that man smelt like Uchiha and something else. Something planet base. said Ruby to Holly. As the other hellhound nodded her head to her pack leader. Ruby closed the camera and stepped back into the shadows. This was all that her MSTR need to move against those fools. In their next little meeting they wouldn't be walking out alive. Hell. Lucifer looked over files and growled out as he was growing tired of this. He wanted to be back on Earth with his son. But his father told him his time would come. But he didn't know what he meant by that. Holly came running into his office. MSTR. She called out. Lucifer looked up from his paperwork as Kushina walked into his office with tea and some cakes she had made for him. What is it, Holly? He asked the hellhound. MSTR, I have a massage from Ruby, said Holly as she sat before her MSTR. She said that the orange-masked man smells of Uchiha and planet and that to check and see if your two dead students are in the afterlife. She told him. This made Lucifer arch an eyebrow and stand up from his desk. Ren and Obito were his students in his life as Minato and they both had dead. Or so he had believed. Are you sure about that? Asked Kushina as she was now worried. Would one of his students go so far as betray us? She questioned. Holly looked over at her MSTRS. Yes, MSTRS, I believe they would. For have you ever looked at the heart of an Uchiha? All those BSTRDS want is power. For they are planning to overthrow the village. Ruby has the village evidence and is going to be showing it to Tsukumo here shortly, and if they take the village, they soon will go after the young prince for the power that is held within him, and if they find out he is half angel. Holly trailed off for she saw her MSTR getting upset. I'll meet with Death and find out what is going on and see if he has my two former students, said Lucifer as he stood up and stormed out of his office. Kushina just watched her husband leave and turned to the hellhound next to her. This isn't going to end very well. Holly could only nod her head in agreement. Lucifer walked down a dark and shadowy hallway that led to an old Gothic wooden door. Knocking 3 times. The door swung open. It has been a long time, Lucifer, said a dark voice from the shadows of the dark room with only light from candlelight. Yes, has been a while, Death. But I think you can drop the act, said Lucifer as he looked around as the darkness faded away and the room brightened up into an old English study with Death sitting behind a large oak desk. Tell me, Lucifer, this isn't a social call, said Death. Lucifer sighed and looked at the tall skinny man with gray hair and gray pin suit. I need to know if my two former students are here in the afterlife, he told Death. Death arched his eyebrow as he placed his teacup back down and waved his hand over his desk as a book appeared before him. Let's see, he said with a A frown married his face as he looked for the two names. It appears Obito, Uchiha and Ren are not in the afterlife, he told Lucifer as he looked a little annoyed. It appears Madara killed my Reaper that was sent to reap Obito. As for Ren, she was saved and is in Kumo. Survived, having the 3 tails still sealed in her. One by the name of Killer Bee saved her life and had her seal fixed. I am glad she is alive. But this is troublesome if Obito is alive. For that means he is the one that attacked my wife the night my son was born, said Lucifer as he was growing enraged by this betrayal of his student. What could have made his fun-loving student fall so far? I know that look. All I can tell you. Love can do a lot to a lost soul, said Death. Thank you for your time, said Lucifer as he turned to leave. It appears Tsukumo is going to be sending me many souls to be judged before Obito is able to carry out his plans, said Death. Lucifer turned and looked over his shoulder. That he is. He will be sending you most of all the adults of the Uchiha clan along with the elders and clan head, he told Death. Death nodded his head as a smile graced his thin weathered lips and picked up his slice of pizza he had made from the man that used to own the pizza shop in Chicago so long ago. Lucifer walked back into his office where his wife awaited him as she looked over files. Well, Death just told me that Obito and Ren are still alive. Ren is in Kumo with the three tails in her and Obito is masquerading as Madara. He told his wife. Kushina dropped the files in her arms and stood there for several moments before her brain just clicked. I'm going to murder that bstrd. She screamed. All of hell shook from her roar of anger. Elsewhere. Toby sat watching Pain talk with his little gang about gathering the tail beast. Just then a shiver ran down his spine. I feel like someone just pulled me out of my grave and set it ablaze and ripped my body to pieces. He thought to himself. Hidden Leaf. Ruby walks into the train ground to find Naruto flying past her as Sakumo laughing at the boy using his wings to catch himself midair. Alright brat. Ruby is here meaning I got orders, or she goes something good for me to see. Said Sakumo as he stood up and pulled the towel he had in his pocket out to clean his face. Alright. I need to clean up. Said Naruto as he ran into the house away from his crazy uncle. Ruby smirked at Sakumo. Well lover, I do have a both for you. Also I very pissed off Kushina wanting to go to war. She told her mstr/lover. Really now? Asked Sakumo as he walked up to the ex-witch now hellhound. He pulled her into a kiss. Yes, Obito was behind the attack. He was also at the meeting that Moron Fugaku was having tonight. Said Ruby as she saw his eye flash amber for a spilt second. I see. Said Sakumo as he turned from her and sat down on a log that was next to the ground field. They're going to have their meeting tonight during the full moon. MSTR believes that this will be the best time for you to attack and kill them all. Said Ruby as she sat down next to him. This isn't the best time. The foolish angels are away. But I will make do with Maze and Trixie and the pack of hellhounds. Said Sakumo as he handed his hand though his raven locks. I wish you would allow your hair to go back to its lovely silver locks. Said Ruby as she ran her fingers through his hair. He smirked at her. You know I am unable to do that. With my son still alive and how he didn't take my death too well and the death of Lucifer. Yeah, him seeing me alive. It would drive him to the madhouse. He told her as he leaned back in catching her lips with his. You two do know we have a teenage running around the house and at any given time he has his friends over, right? Asked Trixie as she was giggling at the two before her. He old enough. Said Sakumo as he pouted at the girl before him. Looks like boss man has a mission for us, asked Trixie as she walked over to the two as Maze came out of the house hearing mission. Yes, he has sent orders to kill all the elders and clan head of the Uchiha and all those who are going along with his foolish plan. Tonight is the night he wanted you all to attack for it's the night of the full moon and you might be able to get the fake Madara. Said Ruby as Trixie and Maze both grinned. Kurama was sitting in a tree listening to them. Sounds like a good plan. I'll babysit the kit and the angels should be back tonight. He told them as he jumped down and stood next to them. I guess that is the plan. Ruby, get the pack ready and we will meet at 11:30 outside the Uchiha shrine. Said Sakumo. Ruby nodded her head and vanished in flames. Well, things are moving along a lot more quickly than we had hoped. Said Trixie as she crossed her arms and stood before them in her adult form. They have tipped our hand. If they take control of the village. Who's to say they wouldn't just use Naruto as a war or just treat him like a beast? Said Maze as she was glaring up to the heavens. That is why we are here. To tip the hands of fate back in our favor. Said Sakumo as the others just nodded their heads. For tonight many things were going to come to light and some things that belong in the dark would find their way to the light. Uchiha District. Sasuke sat in the kitchen listened to his mother talk about something as he was looking over a scroll she had given him to read. Sasuke, I want you to grow stronger than your foolish father and your brother. You do not belong in their shadows. She told him, making him look up from the scroll. Okay, Mom. But is bring this on tonight? Questioned Sasuke as he placed aside the clan law scroll. She sighed and looked over at her youngest. Your father might be doing something foolish that will end this clan. If that happens and he fails, I want you to be protected. If that happens, I want you to go to Naruto's family and have them take you in. She told her son. I'll do as you ordered, but father is always up to something and nothing ever comes of his plans or scams. I don't think this one will happen like all the others, said Sasuke as he stood up and hugs his mother. Good night, mother. Good night, Sasuke. She told him as she kissed his forehead and went back to cleaning her kitchen, waiting to see if her husband was going to carry out his new plan and if she would live through the night. It was already 11:59 p.m. We move tonight. Does everyone know who they will be killing? Asked Fugaku. All the men and several women nodded their heads to their clean leader. I am truly sorry about this, Fugaku. But tonight the only ones on death door will be the ones here in this shrine. Came a dark male voice from the shadows of the shrine basement. Who's there? Show yourself, demanded Fugaku. Out stepped Tsukumo in his true form. His silver locks glowed in the moonlight. Death has sent me to stop this fool plan of yours, he told the man. How are you even here, Tsukumo? You're dead, said Fugaku in a calm but fearful voice. Like I said, Death has ordered me here tonight to kill those of the Uchiha clan that plan to turn on their village, said Tsukumo as his eye began to glow and turn amber, and before them was now a werewolf. His hellhound stepped out of the shadows on each side of him as Trixie and Maze followed suit. Tonight the full moon would be bathed in blood, said Maze as she licked her blade, and they attacked. Muffled screams could be heard from the shrine. But no one came to see what was happening, for they had been placed under a peaceful sleep. Toby stepped into the shadows of the shrine to see if the plan was underway. But what he found made him sick. Before him was nothing but blood and guts and several body parts being eaten by hellhounds. It is a pleasure you join us tonight, Obito, came a soft female voice. He turned to see a young girl sitting next to the wall watching the hounds eat. What happened here, and why are you calling me Obito? I am Madara Uchiha. Drop the act, Obito, we know you didn't die that day during the Third War, came a deeper male voice from behind him. He turned to see a werewolf standing behind him throwing a hand to a hellhound. What the hell are you? He asked with fear in his voice. Just a ghost from the past that has come back to protect the future, said Tsukumo. Well, kid, it's time to die, said Maze as she rushed Obito. But before she could kill him, we vanished into a black void. BSTRD, growled out Maze as she hit the wall with her blade. No matter, we have time. He will be coming back, and we will get him them, said Trixie as she stood up and turned back into her child form. Let's go before someone finds us here, said Maze as they vanish into the shadows as the basement door opens. There stood Itachi Uchiha, who was planning to kill his father and his whole clan if need be to save his little brother and the other children from the faith of hatred. But the sight before him shocked him. Quickly he rushed home to see if his mother was still alive. As he opened the back door, he found his mother in the kitchen putting the last of the dinner away. For she had grown tired of waiting for her good-for-nothing husband to come home. You're alive, said Itachi with shock in his voice. She looked up at him. Huh? What are you talking about, dear? She asked her son. Father and the others are all dead. There is nothing left of them but a few body parts and blood and a few guts, said Itachi as he was growing paler and greener. So someone found out about their stupid plan and killed them? Good, she said as she turned away from her son and sat down. I know that isn't very kind of me, but I told your father that this wasn't going to end well for him and the others. Itachi looked at his mother with shock. You knew what father was planning all along and haven't told anyone? He asked her. She looked at him as if he was an annoying little child. I went to the Hokage and he told me he would talk to your father and the elders. But it appeared his talks went nowhere with that foolish man, she told her son. Itachi nodded his head dumbly. Well, get some rest for tomorrow. You and I will have to clean the shrine. She told her son as she rose and went to the stairs. Good night, dear. She told him with a smile. Good night, mother. Said Itachi. I wonder who I would have to thank for taking care of that but for me. She thought to herself. It was 6 a.m. and Naruto, Shikamaru, and Ino both stood in training ground 10 waiting for their new senseis. Maze and Trixie senseis will be here soon. They said they need to go get a lazy bump to do his job. Said Naruto as he grinned. They all knew. They both women didn't like Kakashi for he was a slacker that lived in the past and his poor team was going to pay for his weakness if he didn't get his head out of his ass. That's fine. It gives me a chance to get a little more sleep. Said Shikamaru as she laid back down next to a tree and fell quickly to sleep. Ino grinned at Naruto. You have a lazy girlfriend, you know. She told her fellow blonde. Naruto blushed. She isn't lazy. He said as he turned away from the gossip princess of Konoha. So you're telling me she really is your girlfriend? Questioned Ino with a Chester cat grin on her face. Shikamaru woke up and looked over at her friend with a glare as Naruto was blushing even more. Aye. He trailed off as Trixie and Maze showed up. That's enough from you, Ino. We are in the works for a marriage contract right now. Said Maze with an evil grin. That was enough for Naruto to pass out and Shikamaru to sit up and glare at Maze now. That isn't funny, Maze-sensei. Said Shikamaru. Maze grinned as she looked at her students as Trixie woke Naruto up with a bowl of ramen. Alright, you three. There is normally a test I'm to give you. But I know how strong you are, and I know it would be pointless. So I say you pass, and we start with what I want to train you in as well as we are being these lame as D-rank chore missions. The quicker we get those done the sooner we move up to a C-rank mission. She told her students as Trixie nodded her head. Most likely I will be the one that will be on these D-rank mission with you for Maze will get bored and try to do something stupid. So during those times she will be at T and I making trouble for Ibiki right next to Anko. Said Trixie as she smiled at her students. I am glad that we don't have to do the bell test that I read about in Dad's notes that he did on his students and what his sensei did with him to see how we work as a team. Said Naruto as he gave a foxy grin. Both Shika and Ino looked over at their blonde-haired teammate. You knew what test we might have to do? They asked him as one. Well, yeah. It's normal for us to be tested on teamwork and the most basic of that test is the bell or tracking and we are not a tracking team like what I think Team 8 is and what Team 7 might be. Said Naruto. Maze grinned. Well, you are right to a point. Team 8 is going to be a tracking team with one heavy hitter on it. Team 7 is set up to be a frontline team with a tracker and maybe a medic whatever that fangirl gets her head out of her as and takes being a kunoichi serious. She told her students. Then what are we going to be? Asked Ino not too sure if she wanted to know. We are going to be first response with interrogation and infiltration with a heavy hitter. Said Maze as she grinned at each of her little genin. So we will be getting AT and I training at genin level? Questioned Shikamaru as she sighed. Troublesome. Yes, that training will be in 1 week. During that week Anko will be joining us as well as Ibiki for he wanted to see if Ino will show any promise in taking over her father's job in the future. Said Maze as she smirked. Ino smirked. I would love to take over Daddy's job but I'm having so much fun learning poisons that I don't know if I want to work in T&I. She told them. Well, you know in T&I they allow you to test out all your poisons on the prisoners that are on death row, right? Questioned Trixie as she knew Ino would fall for the bait. Ino's eyes widened. You're joking, right? She asked. Nope. Why do you think Anko loves it there so much? Said Maze with a devilish grin. Then I guess it wouldn't be too bad in looking into maybe taking over Daddy's job in the future. Said Ino as she was now smirking at Maze. Okay, let's see how we want to get started. We can take D ranks at the start of the day or begin with training. For I believe if we get the training done first, we could be doing D ranks after lunch and Maze can be off making Ibiki's life a little bit sunnier," said Trixie as she is smiling at her longtime friend. "I say we bring with morning training for the cooler mornings would make it easier on us, and in the afternoon, we can do those chores that Maze doesn't want anything to do with," said Naruto as he was smiling. "Troublesome. We are going to be sore before we even get to our missions in the afternoon," said Shikamaru as she is glaring at Naruto. "Well, I believe after we finish with mission we return to our compound and see what other skill you girls would like to pick up. We have already had Naruto learning sealing and kenjutsu and others weapons, for I want him very well rounded," said Maze as she studied Ino and Shikamaru as they both just stood there thinking. "Like I have told you in the past in our group training from the academy, I need to learn some more jutsus and other fighting styles, for my clan style leaves me defenseless when I use it," said Ino as she stood there thinking more. "That is something we can work on in the morning and in the evening. For we want you all to be well-rounded," said Trixie as she was smiling at the blonde-hair girl. "I need to build up my chakra reserves and stamina, for my family jutsu does take a lot out of me when I try to hold someone down like Naruto who has a lot of chakra," said Shikamaru as she was still thinking. "Also I need more jutsu and fighting styles and weapons to rely on as well, for once I am out of chakra, I'm pretty much screwed and I don't want to be seen as weak," said Shikamaru as she looked a little annoyed at the idea of coming across as weak. "Those are good things to point out and good things to know about yourselves, and these are things we will be working on. Also I have a couple of fools seeing if they could try down a couple extra summoning scrolls while they are out on missions. For I want to make my team well-rounded, and if I can have you three surpass the Sennin the better," said Maze as a wicked grin crept across her face. She might not like the angels too much, but at times they could be useful to her. "Alright kids, give us 10 laps around the training field, for we will start off light today, but by the end of the week I want you all to be able to run 25 laps, and it will go up each week by 5 laps, and after that we will work on chakra control by tree walking or water walking," said Maze. She was now throwing kunai at the genin for not running. "You know you don't have to throw kunai at them," said Trixie as she looks over at Maze. "I know, but it is more fun this way," said Maze with a grin. So they were off as they began their lives as shinobi, even though they are at the bottom. They would soon move up, for nothing was going to stop them, and they would be damned if anyone gets in their way of becoming legends of their own rights. The angels had returned with 4 summoning scrolls they had found on their missions outside of the village. Naruto was sitting outside with Kurama working with the fox summons as a black and white fox kits ran around the lord of all the bijus and fox summons. Naruto looks up to see the 3 angels to walk into the courtyard. "Hey everyone," he called out with a huge grin. Amenadiel smiled at his nephew as Azrael waved at him, and Uriel just nodded his head to the boy. "How has your training been coming along, Naruto?" asked Amenadiel as he walked up to his nephew. "It has been going well. It has sucked that the old man has been sending you 3 out of the village a lot. Sakumo has been doing his best to train me in my angelic powers along with Kurama here," said Naruto as he looked over at Kurama, who was still playing with the kits. "What does a werewolf and a fox know about angelic powers?" scoffed Uriel as he was growing annoyed with playing with these humans. "He'd rather be back in Silver City. You would be surprised what one learns throughout the years," said Kurama as he looks up at Uriel, as he didn't care very much for this angel. He would rather rip him to pieces, send him back to Silver City in a pretty little box. Uriel glares at him as he didn't care much for the biju. He blamed the fox for his troublesome brother's death. Also, the creature was unnatural to his world. It wasn't demon and it wasn't angelic. It was a creature created of pure energy, and it could change their father. "That is enough out of you, Uriel," came Maze's voice from behind the 3. They turned to see a pissed-off raven-hair woman. She wasn't in the mood for a pissing contest with this angel and the biju. "If you do not like it here, why don't you return back to Silver City and send someone else that could aid us better?" she told him. "I would if I was allowed," growled out Uriel as he turned away and left the group. Amanadiel looks to Naruto. Please forgive him. The mission went south, and he almost lost his wings against an IWA ninja. He told his nephew. Naruto just smiles. It's alright. He is always like this when you guys get back from a mission. I have told the old man to make him a desk ninja, for Uncle Uriel isn't a field ninja anymore. He is too old to be playing with the young pups. He told the older man before him. Amanadiel smiled at the boy. Very well spoken. There are times we angels do need to take time away from field work and just take it easy and train to rebuild out strength, and I believe it is his time once more. He said. Azrael looked up to the heavens. Father, it might be time to recall my brother. I don't think things will end well for him here. She silently prayed to the heavens. Silver City. God watched over his children and his grandson. He heard his daughter's prayer. He could agree with her. Uriel has been pulling himself away from everyone and hadn't been wanting to spend as much time with Naruto anymore. Even when missions would come up, he didn't want to take part. He did all what he needed to do just to make it by and made the other two carry all the weight of all the missions they had been taking. Uriel should return back to Silver City. He doesn't care at all to train Naruto. I think Amanadiel and Azrael are doing well on their own with training the boy. I do not need Lucifer coming for his brother. For if anything happens to his son and Uriel hadn't done nothing to save the boy, it will not end well for him. So tonight, send him a message and have him return. Ordered God to a random angel as they rushed away to follow their orders and make a scroll for the Hokage of Uriel passing away in his sleep and the family taking care of the body already. Hell. Lucifer had been watching what has been going on with his son and saw his brother just not wanting to be around. This angered him. Konoha. Maze looks at her ex-lover Amanadiel. What summons have you found? She asked him as they all walked into the house as the kids had returned home to their mother. We have found the dire wolves, tigers, panthers, and oddly enough a very old scroll for hellhounds, said Azrael as she looked at the others. Naruto should sign the wolves and hellhounds contracts, said Kurama. This had all eyes on him as they looked at him. Why? Asked Naruto as he was wondering. I already have the fox summons contract, he tells Kurama. Kurama looks at him. Because the villagers will freak out if you ever have to summon me on a boss fight inside or outside of the village walls, he tells the boy. Not many people really like me for what happened last time, he tell him. Naruto nodded his head. He understood where Kurama was coming from. He would just use the fox summons, mostly do recon and other things, and will train with the other two summon contracts that he was told to sign, as Kurama was the boss summons. He didn't need to ask if it was alright. Amanadiel pulls out the two scrolls and gives them to his nephew. I hope they sever you well, nephew. Naruto nodded his head and unrolled both scrolls and bit his thumb and signed both summons. He thought the hand signs and shouted out for both summons. Dire wolves. Hellhounds. He yelled as there was two large puffs of smoke before him. There before him was the three-headed hellhound Cerberus and Chaos of the dire wolf pack. Both the boss summons of each summons. Who summons me? Asked one of the three heads of Cerberus as his crimson eyes looks around as Naruto stands before him strong and tall. Who has the gall to summon me? Asked Chaos as his amber eyes fall on the blondie hair before him and Cerberus. I do, said Naruto as he looks at them both. Kurama takes his Ninetales form as he stands behind Naruto. Just in case he needs to fight for the boy's life against these two. A human child has summoned us, scoffed Chaos as he was now laughing. Do not laugh. I am the son of Lucifer Morningstar and Kushina Uzumaki. I am Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki Morningstar, said Naruto as his wings came out of his back as he was claiming his BRTH right. Cerberus looked at he boy with shock written on all three of his heads. So Morningstar did have a son after all. He questioned as he looks at Kurama that stood behind the boy. So what is he, your MSTR now? No, he isn't my MSTR. I am sealed within him. For the humans fear what they do not understand, Cerberus. So do not mock me. For it could easily be you or one of your children in my place. Said Kurama as his gaze turns to Chaos. That goes to you as well, old friend. Both boss summons looked at Kurama with understand. For they had gone through their own time periods where people hunted and feared them. I see you also hold the Kitsune summons. So why do you sign with us both? Questioned Chaos as he wanted to know. I was the one to tell him to sign both those summoning scrolls. For he wouldn't be able to use my summons within these village walls. So having powerful summons as you both will make up for when he isn't able to call for me. Said Kurama as he knew this always pissed the two off. It took the two of them to take down his sister the two-tailed cat, and they stood to chance of taking him down. Chaos glared at Kurama for his little shot at him and Cerberus. What makes you think we will allow this child here to be our summoner? Questioned Chaos. Naruto smirked at this. For Cerberus already works closely with my father and my uncle Sakumo Hatake. He told the two bosses as Cerberus stiffened at this little bit of information. So he is your uncle. I thought he was a lazy drunk that was go for nothing but killing and screwing several of my female hellhounds. Growled out Cerberus as Sakumo appeared from the shadows. You don't have to be rude about it, and I am only with the former witch Ruby. The others I will not lay with, for I respect Ruby too much. Said Sakumo as he was grinning at the large three-headed hellhounds before him. More like an afraid before she cut the ball off her last lover for laying with another. Said Cerberus as he saw Sakumo shift a little. That is enough. We are here about the kit. Not about who ISF who, growled out Kurama as the house shook from his power alone. He was showing them who was the boss and king of all demons and boss of all Kitsune summons. I do not have the time for you three fools to waste. You will allow the kit here to be your summons. I will know if you refuse to allow him to summon you, and I will pay you a little visit. Even if that means bring the kit to your summoning realm, I will stomp you into the ground like I have for centuries and prove my power once more over the two of you and anyone else who has the gall to face me on the field of battle. He growled out as the flames of hell licked at his open mouth and his paws. He wasn't playing with the two of them, and he will train Naruto to have his kind of power. But he will make sure the boy still holds his heart of gold, for he was the purest soul he had ever felt in his life. Something that was too good for this world. But who was he to make that choose? Both Chaos and Cerberus took a step back from the Lord of all Demon and bowed their heads in fear and respect. Yes, my lord, as you request. They said as one. This isn't right. I should have them coming to aid me out of fear and respect for you, Uncle Kurama. Said Naruto as he was feeling sad and uneasy about this all. Kurama looks to the boy knowing his pure heart was hurting him watching these two being forced into his service. Then what do you want to do about it, kid? He questioned. Naruto looked at Kurama and then back at the other two. A small smile graced his lips as he walked up to the two boss summons. He held out his hand to the two of them. Hi, I'm Naruto. We got off on the wrong foot and I just want to be your friend. I don't want you fear me because of Kurama or come to my aid at his request or demand. I want you to help me because we are friends. He told the two before him. This shocked the two before him. You mortal child want us as your friends? Questioned Cerberus as his three heads looked at the boy as he was up to some kind of trick. They couldn't find anything. They couldn't feel a negative energy or that he was lying to them. He was being honest to them. For the first time in a long time. A mortal had told them the truth. Why would you want to befriend us? Are you not scared of us? Asked Chaos as he watched the boy closely. No. I'm not. Said Naruto as he shook his head at the dire wolf boss. I have been around Kurama and Maze all my life as well as the crazy snake lady Anko. I'm not scared of you. Once you had giant snakes chasing you, it takes a lot to scare you. He told them. Chaos smirked. He has heard about how Anko of the Snake Summons is very playful with her summons and loves having them scare and play with people all the time. I see. Was all he said as he turned to look at Cerberus. Cerberus met his gaze and slowly nodded his heads. We will give you this chance to prove you are different from the humans we have trusted in the past. But if you ever betray this trust, not even Kurama can save you from us. He told the boy. That sounds fair, said Naruto as he nodded in agreement. The kit will surprise you, was all the Kurama said as he watched the two friends vanish in a poof of smoke. He just hoped that the power he let loose didn't scare the SHT out of the villagers. If it did on well, they could SCK it. In the morning you will give your mate the panther summons and the other blondie the tiger summons. I had wished they had found something that would have been poisonous, but beggars can't be choosers, he said as Naruto nodded his head. He had been a long night for the boy. He was ready to turn in. His nerves were on edge from phase 2 of the scariest summons he had ever seen in his life. With that said, he had passed out before everyone. Kurama just chuckled as he picked up his kit and took him to his room to get some rest. He needed it after tonight. That night Michael had left heaven with only one mission in mind. It was rare for the Archangel to even leave heaven these days, as he didn't want anything to do with anything going on around him. He had lost his passion and light for fighting, leaving everything to his siblings to handle. But oddly enough he had gone to his father. Flashback. Father, I wish to be the one to go and fetch VERYYYY, said Michael as he looked up at his father. God looked down at his depressed son. If that is what you wish to do, then so be it, my son, said God as he smiled at him. Michael nodded his head and took the scrolls from the angel that was to head to Earth to pick up VERYYYY. End of flashback. Michael stood before the front door of the door as Maze could feel a strong angelic power coming from the front door. Who the hell is here now? She grumbled as the others looked over at her a little puzzled. What's wrong, Auntie Maze? Asked Naruto as he was confused. She looks over at him. Why don't you go answer the door and you will find out, she told him as Naruto stood up and walked over to the front door. As he opened the door, there before him was a man with golden blonde hair and violet eyes. Michael looked a little shocked when he saw his nephew for the very first time. If he didn't know any better, he could be looking a younger version of himself. But Lucifer was his twin brother, and it wouldn't be shocking for Naruto to look like him. Hey, who are you? Asked Naruto as he just looked at the man before him. Trixie, getting a little worried, she walks over to the front door to see who Naruto is talking to. Michael clears his throat. I am Archangel Michael, and I'll here to bring back VERYYYY on father's request, said the now named Michael as Trixie looked surprised at the man at the door. All right. Come in, Uncle Michael, said Naruto as he stepped aside. Hearing the name, the boys said all the angels and demons in the house had gathered in the living room as VERYYYY was glaring at the angel that walked into the house. What are you doing here, Michael? Asked VERYYYY as he didn't have time for silly games. Michael narrowed his eyes at his brother's blatant disrespect for him. I am here to drag your lazy ass back to heaven before Lucifer breaks out of hell and tries killing you once more, he told his younger brother as he wasn't in the mood for his BS. VERYYYY narrowed his eyes at him. On whose orders? He questioned as he wanted to know who ordered this. Father. He has been watching you and how you've been negating your duties here. It is best you return and someone or no one replace you here in the house. Father has already made up a scroll for the others to give to the Hokage, stating you had passed away in your sleep from a heart attack and they had already taken care of your body, said Michael as he had a little joy watching the anger in his younger brother's eyes. VERYYYY smirked. I am glad I'm leaving this hellhole. I am not even allowed to carry out my mission with that DMN Hokage always sending us out of the village for bullshit missions. He growled out as he didn't want to play ninja anymore and just wanted to go back to Silver City and sleep and be a lazy BSTRD. Wow, I didn't know you felt this way, said Naruto as he looked sad and began to walk out of the living room as he had been made to feel like he was nothing but a burden to his uncle. All in the room looked at Uriel with narrow eyes as they glared at the man for how he left his nephew feeling. He just rolled his eyes at this. It is best he toughens up and learns now not everyone will do everything for him. He growled out. But before Kurama could move across the living room and kill the man before him, Michael punched Uriel, breaking his nose, and began to stomp him into the ground, leaving the angel a broken bloody mess on the ground. You will learn to bite your tongue. This will be the very last time in a long time you will ever see Naruto and how you leave here tonight. He will know that you had never loved or cared for him but saw him a waste of your time and a bartend that was forced upon you. Growled out Michael as Uriel vanished in a silver light. He had been dragged back to Silver City to now answer to his father for his actions and behavior. For if Lucifer had seen this, there was nothing their father could do to stop the man from coming and killing Uriel. Always a watchful and caring father, Lucifer had seen it all along with Kushina. They both will be heading to Silver City to deal with Uriel. Michael sighed. He should have never come here. I knew he would be doing this sooner or later. He did last longer than anyone would have, though he would have. He said as he shook his head in disappointment. You should have allowed me to kill him. Growled out Kurama as he could feel how sad and heartbroken his kit was about this all. Michael looked over at the redhead. No. For I would have killed you, he said with a cold tone. Kurama smirked. You can't kill me. For you would have killed Lucifer's son, and Lucifer would have broken out of hell and appeared here and killed you before you could have done anything. He told the Archangel before him. Michael frowned as it was true, Lucifer had changed since he had become a father and with his crimson hair lover by his side. The ex-Archangel was much more powerful than he was at this time. HN. Was all he said as Kurama smirked. I see where the Uchihas get that from, said Maze with a dark smirk. Michael glared at the woman as he had met the very few lucky Uchihas that made it to heaven, and he would have rather sent them to hell, for their egos annoyed him to no end. Do not compare me to those monkeys, he growled out. Someone is sounding like the old morning star, said Azrael as she looked away quickly and hid behind Maze. Anyways, Uriel is now gone. Why are you still here, Michael? Asked Maze as she wanted to know. Amenadiel nodded his head to this question. Yes, bother. It is rare for you to even Silver City in this day and age. Why are you still lingering here on Earth with us? He wanted to know. Michael looked at them. For you are not training the boy in his angelic power, and it is not sitting well with me, he told them. This shocked them all, as Michael was one that hasn't wanted nothing to do with Lucifer since his fall from grace. So what, are you going to stay here for the time being and take over his training? Asked Azrael as she wanted to know what was going through her brother's mind. Yes. For now I will stay. But I will not become a shinobi of this village, for I will not answer to anyone but our father, said Michael as they just nodded their heads at him. Kurama just sighed. He was stuck with the stick in the mud for the time being, and he didn't want to deal with him whatsoever. He would give anything to just have Lucifer return and take over and deal with all these fools. The demons had shown more heart to his kit than the fool Uriel and the other two angels have done their best. So he doesn't hold nothing against them, as he knew they've been taking missions so the Hokage would leave him alone. For they feared to tell the old monkey that the redhead they all had been talking to be the Kyuubi. They would have a heart attack. But they would have to tell him soon, for Naruto was now going to go on missions and the old man was going to stay with him once more. DMN it all to hell. For now just leave the kid alone. He needs to rest. He has to meet his mate and his other teammate to teach them how to use their summons. After he returns from training and missions you may begin your training with him, said Kurama as he was being the protective brother/father to his kid. Very well, said Michael as he looked at Amenadiel. So me to Uriel's old room, he ordered as the other quickly rose and showed him to his new room. Next day, Naruto quickly ran to the training ground 10. He wanted to be there early for they would be working with Trixie today as maize was needed in tea and I for Anko and Ibiki had a tough cookie to break and they needed her skills for this one. Sitting under a tree was Ino and Shikamaru as they both just chat. Well, more Ino chatting as Shikamaru was trying to take a nap as she was bored and tried. "Hey," said Naruto as he appeared before the two of them. They both looked up at him. "Hey Naruto/Narukun," said both Ino and Shikamaru. He grinned at both girls. "I got a gift for the two of you," he told them as he unsealed both summoning scrolls from his left forearm. One scroll had a black strap on it and with a picture of a large black cat of some kind as the other had an orange and black strap with a what looked like a tiger on it. Ino perked up at this. "You got us something?" she asked him as she was excited at getting a gift of some kind. She just raised an eyebrow to this. "What did you get us?" she asked him as she was wondering what he got them. He grinned at them. "Well, my Auntie Azrael and Uncle Aminadiel found some summoning scrolls and I wanted you two to have personal summons," he told them. They looked at him wide-eyed. "Are you sure about that?" asked Ino as she was shocked at this. "Yeah. Summons are very rare and hard to find and why are you so willing to give them away?" asked Shika as she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "I want you to be stronger. As it is, I already have 3 summoning contracts and my family didn't want them and if I just stored them in my family library, they are just going to get dusty. So why not give them to my friend and my girlfriend?" said Naruto as he was grinning again. "You have 3 summons?" asked Shika as she was now wondering what contracts he held. "Yeah. One of them I can't use in the village for the villagers will have a heart attack." "Well, I think they would have a heart attack from all 3 of my summons. If you really do think about it," mused Naruto as he was now thinking as he held the 2 scrolls for the girls in his hands. "Okay," said Ino as she was even wondering the same thing as her best friend. "But that is besides the fact. You will meet 2 of my summons as we train with your summons," said Naruto as he looked down at each scroll. "Shika, I want you to have the panther summons as they are silent stalkers and hunt from the shadows," he said as he looked over at Ino. "Ino, I want you to have the tiger summons as they are strong and appealing like you," he said with a cheesy grin on his face as he watched her blush and Shika glare at him. Each girl took a scroll and looked at it and back at him waiting for him to explain what to do next. "Alright, open the scroll and write your name in BLD and then put your handprint in BLD. But make sure you use your hand that will be mainly for summoning. When you're done with that I'll show you the hand signs and then once you have them down you will push as much chakra as you can into summoning them and then talk to whoever comes and let them know you are their new summoner. But sometimes come summons will have you do a test. So be ready for anything," said Naruto as both girls nodded their heads to him. After doing as he told them he had shown them the hand signs and after 30 minutes they had pushed as much chakra they could into summoning and with 2 large poofs of smoke appeared the boss summons. "Who summons me?" questioned a large panther with a scare of its left eye. "Who has found my scroll?" questioned a large white tiger. "We do," said Shikamaru and Ino as one. "Both boss summons. Look at the girls before them." "Who summons Shiba of the Panthers?" asked the now named Shiba. "I do, Shikamaru Nara," said Shikamaru as she stood tall and looked the summons in the eyes as she was going to back down. "A little fawn believes she is strong enough to call upon one like myself," laughed Shiba. Narrowing her eyes, Shikamaru glares at the large cat before her. "I may be a fawn right now, but soon I will be a strong doe that will be the head of my clan," she said in a strong voice. She had lost all laziness that normally laced her voice as she walked up to the panther boss and stared her down. Shiba smirked at the girl. "Very good, cub. I will allow you to summon us. But be warned, if you cross us or betray us, there will be hell to pay and your mate there and his summons will not be able to save you." Kurama will be damned. She said as she hissed Kurama's name at Naruto as she glared at him. Hey, I never said I was going to call him for anything. Whined Naruto as he glared back at the large panther before him. She smirks at him. I know cub, but that bstrd lurks in the shadows and knowing him he will do all in his power to have his way. She told him as Kurama jumped down and glared at her. The girls look at Naruto's uncle a little puzzled as he glares at the panther boss. DMN Yushiba. The kid's mate and friend were not to know of me just yet. He growled out as his eyes flashed crimson and an aura of a nine-tailed fox appeared around him. It appears you never change Kurama. Said the tiger boss as he narrows his yellow eyes at the man. Kurama looks at him and smirks. Still sore about losing to me? Well, I should be asking, are you still sore about losing to my baby brother the One-Tail? He told the tiger. The tiger narrowed his eyes even more. Shikaku just got luck. He growled out. Ino and Shika just watched this man PSS off 2 summons as larger as a mountain without any fear whatsoever. The tiger turns away from Kurama and looks at Ino and looks the girl over. So little flower. Do you believe you are strong enough to summon us tigers? He asked her. Ino glared at him, balling her hands into fist. Don't call me that. My name is Ino Yamanaka. Yes, I do believe I am strong enough to be your summoner. She told him as she stood strong against the tiger that could just eat her in just one bite. A child of the mind-walking clan. Interesting. Not many of your clan are able to handle summons, for they are too weak. Said the tiger as he grinned as he was pushing any button on her he could. My clan might not be the strongest. But we make it up in heart and strong will to never give up and leave our friends and commands behind. I will do all I can to stand on equal grounds as my teammates and be the future clan head of my clan one day. Said Ino with fire in her eyes. The tiger smirked. He had light the fire he was hoping to see in her. Very well. I will allow you to summon my clan. Said the now named Yurei. Ino bowed to him. Which shocked the large tiger summons. Thank you. I will do all I am able to. Make you and my clan proud of me. She told him. Both summons looked at Kamara. You old bstrd. We will have a rematch once again someday. Said Yurei as he vanished in a cloud of smoke. You still owe me dinner, Kurama. Said Shiba as she winked at him and vanished as well. Kurama just grumbled to himself as he was getting ready to leave the kids. Wait. What did those two mean about you, Kurama-sensei? Asked Shika as she looked at her part-time sensei. He looked over at her as he let out a sigh. Come over tonight and I will tell you. But you will not be able to repeat what I tell you. For it is classified information and it has a death sentence attached to it. He told both girls as they paled, looking at him with shock written across their face. With that he vanished in a swirl of flames. Naruto smiled at the both of them. I can't wait until we begin training with our summons. For Uncle Kurama said if the summons allows it, we can become sages. Like how Jiraiya of the Sennin is the Toad Sage. He said with excitement in his voice. Both girls just nodded their heads as they didn't even think that far ahead as their friend/boyfriend is all ready for them. Trixie had come walking up on her team as she saw Kurama leave the group. Hey guys. She called out as they all turned around to look at her. Good morning, Trixie-sensei. Said Ino and Shika as one as Naruto just grinned at his aunt and waved at her. She smiled back at them. So what did I miss for Kurama to leave in a ball of flames like that? She asked them. Naruto smiled sheepishly. Let's just say the girl's summons just outed him and he wants to meet with the girls tonight to tell him our little secret. He said as he looked a little nervous about that. Trixie just nodded her head. Well, it's going to be very interesting. Was all she said as she turned and looked at the others as they looked a little confused at her. For now, don't worry about it. You both will find out soon enough. She told them as she just waved them off. The girls just nodded their heads to this as they didn't know what to think about this. Michael stood off in the shadows up in a tree just watching his nephew talk with the two girls and watched the summons as well. Well, he has chosen a strong female. But will she be able to handle the fact he is the son of the devil? He thought to himself as Kurama appeared before him. You know it isn't right be to a stalker, said Kurama with a smirk on his face. Michael narrows his violet eyes at him. I am watching the boy. I want to know how much work I have before me. He growled out as he didn't like speaking with the Biju. You don't have too much work before you. For I have done my best to teach him about his angelic powers when the others are away, and when they return, they work with him beside that lazy bstrd. Growled out Kurama. Michael scoffed at this. Like a demon like yourself knows anything. I know more than you think, little Archangel, said Kurama with a smirk as he jumped from the branch he was standing on as Michael had swung his flaming holy sword at him. Keep it up, little Archangel. Lucifer will be here before you know it. For nothing will happen to his son or myself. For our lives are linked. Even though your father had changed the ceiling a little, said Kurama as he vanished once more. He had to meet the others at the Hokage tower to have a nice long talk with the old man. Michael growled to himself. DMN beast. His eyes moved back to Naruto as the boy was jumping away from one of Trixie's attacks as his wings appear behind his back. Appealing black and white feathers mixed into his wings. Michael looked on in shock. The boy was pure, but he also gotten his father's black wings from when he had fallen. Naruto smirked as he stayed in the air longer than normal before his wings faded once more and he went falling back to the earth below him. Ouch! He cried as he was rubbing his back and his head as he fell, hitting his head on a stone and his back on a tree. I hate it that I can't keep them out too long. He whined to Trixie. It's fine, Naru-chan. We will get you better trained now that your Uncle Michael is here. I wish I would have listened better during my training with my wings, said Trixie as she looked away sheepishly. A pure soul wishing to live in hell with all the demons and fallen. Many in Silver City had looked at her for wanting that path in her life. Even her mother was shocked for her daughter wanting to stay close to Lucifer and Maze. That is an amazing bloodline, Naruto, said Ino as she loved looking at his wings. Naruto blushes. Thanks, Ino, he said sheepishly as he rubs his hand behind his head as he looks away. Shikamaru just studies the two as his family always said weird things and always seemed to be different from the others in the village or even different from a normal human in many ways, and with Naruto having this strange bloodline limit it always made her wonder what all her boyfriend was hiding from everyone. No matter what, she wouldn't judge him or treat him any different. She just wanted to know what to expect from him. Hokage Tower. Kurama appeared next to Tsukumo and Amanadiel. Are you two ready to get this over with? He asked the two next to him. It's best to do this now. If not, it will be troublesome in the future, said Tsukumo as he was channeling his inner Nara at the moment. With a nod the three men walked into the Hokage Tower with the missions they each had. Kurama figured he would handle his last as it would surely give the old monkey a heart attack. They slowly made their way up the long stairway to the top floor where the Hokage's office was. Each man lost in their own thoughts about what was about to happen. Slowly but surely, they had made it to the old man's office and knocked on the door. Come in, was heard on the other side of the door. They opened the door and walked in as they saw the old man doing his paperwork and was alone as his ANBU had left the office. As they feared two of the three men in the trio before their Hokage. Tsukumo, Kurama, and Amanadiel, what do I owe the pleasure of your visit this fine morning? Asked Sarutobi as he smiled at each of them and watched his ANBU run like scared little girls. This sad. They are the elite and they run from two of the three before me, he thought to himself as he let out a mental sigh to this little detail. Amanadiel stepped forth with a scroll in his hand. I have grave news. But Uriel had passed away last night of a heart attack and we had always handled his body and cremated it. He told the old man before him, giving him the scroll. Everything is in the scroll. He told him. Sarutobi nodded his head. I see. I am truly sorry for the loss in your family. He did appear not to be feeling well last night when you three returned from your mission. He told Amanadiel. Amanadiel just nodded his head to this, as he didn't want to say any more. Sakumo stepped forth. I handled the little issue you were having with the Uchiha clan. All those who wanted to rise against the village have been turned to Hellhound Chow. He said with his eyes flashing amber at the thought of all those screams. Sarutobi paled at this. I didn't know you knew anything about what was happening with them. He said with a hint of fear in his voice. Sakumo smirked. I have a better spy network than Jiraiya's, and I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty to protect those I care for. He said as the old man knew he was talking about Naruto, and he knew that they would do anything for the boy. Kurama smirked. What I am about to tell you will shock you. So you best not have a heart attack on me, you old monkey. He told the elderly leader. Sarutobi arched an eyebrow to this as he wanted to know what the hell was happening. What are you talking about, Kurama-kun? He asked. Kurama took a seat before the elderly old man. There is a reason I have not taken missions from the village, and I'm always close to Naruto. Haven't you ever wondered why I was always close to the boy? He asked. Well, yes, I have wondered that many times, and I have asked the others, and they all told me to ask you, for you're the only one with the answers I need. Said Sarutobi as he was finally getting one answer to the many mysteries that surround the Namikaze/Uzumaki clans. Well, Naruto is my Jinchuriki. I was sealed within Naruto that night, and I was told not to tell you or anyone, for Minato and Kushina wanted the child to have a normal life and for no one to know the secret that the boy had the nine tails sealed within him. But my seal is special as it allows me out of him, for I was ordered by Kushina and Minato to raise the boy and make sure he had a good life. Said Kurama as he watched the old man before him. Sarutobi's eyes wide in shock and fear, for the man before him was the beast that destroyed this village so many years ago. But how, was all he could ask. A higher power get in the way and stop the Shinigami for taking Minato's soul, and my soul was changed to allow me out to raise the boy. For the higher power said if the boy was outed as the jailer of the Nine Tails, the villagers would do all in their power to kill him and hurt him any chance they could get. This was the only things we could do at the time. For the child is very special and we couldn't allow him to be raised, hated and abused. Said Kurama as he knew the old man wanted to say that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't have happened. The villagers would have honored any wishes of Minato. He told Kurama. Kurama just scoffed. Tell me how the other villages treat my siblings sealed in the other human. He asked the old man. Sarutobi opened his mouth to speak but quickly closed it as he knew that what Kurama was saying was true. Naruto would have been treated badly and would have never been cared for or even have friends as he has now. He wouldn't have had a normal childhood, and the elders would have demanded that the boy would have been trained as a weapon, as how they wanted to do that to Kushina once they learned of her being the holder of the Nine Tails. He let out a defeated sigh. You are right. Said Sarutobi as he looked away with shame written across his face. But who all knows about you being sealed in the boy? He asked as he wanted to know. Kurama just smirked. Just his family and soon his mate and other teammate. He told the old man before him. Sarutobi nodded his head. Just make sure the girls know that it is important for them to keep this secret. For we do not need it coming out, as his life would change and there would be a massive uprising with the villagers demanding him to be punished or worst. He told Kurama and the other two. You think I don't know that, you old fool? I know better than any of you monkeys how you monkeys turn on each other over the littlest of things, and this would be the stone that would destroy this village, for I would do everything in my power to protect my kid, and I will kill anyone and everyone who tries to hurt him or kill him. Said Kurama as Sakumo nodded his head as Amanadiel also agreed with the two other men. With a heavy sigh as it appeared Sarutobi aged another 50 years just now. Anything else you want to tell me? He asked them. Kurama and Sakumo just smirked. Not now. Maybe later. said Tsukumo as he stood up and walked back to the office door. With a nod they left the office and left an old man wondering what the hell was going on in his village that he didn't know about it. Uchiha District. Itachi along with his mother cleaned up the shrine as they didn't want anyone to see what had happened there. The cover story they came up with was it was a mass suicide and they would handle it as they didn't want to scar anyone from the site that was left behind those who lost their mind last night. Naruto and Team 10. It was the end of the day and all of Team 10 walked back to Naruto's house so they could get some answers from Kurama about the summons freaking out about him and to have dinner with the boy as Amanadiel was making dinner tonight and it was going to grill for them. So please promise you will not freak out and also you cannot tell anyone about this. If Kurama shows us to later on, we can tell your parents but for now, it is something that must stay with us, said Naruto as he was very nervous as he was scared to lose his best friends and girlfriend over this huge little secret about himself. Don't worry Naruto. We trust you and I don't think there is anything you can tell us that will shock us anymore, said Ino as she smiled at him. Shikamaru took his hand into hers and smiled at him. It will be fine you troublesome blonde, she told him with a smile on her face. I just hope so, said Naruto as he opened the gate leading the girls into his clan lands as they walked up the house. There standing there waiting for him to return was Michael as he was glaring at the girls right next to him. Hurry up. We have training to do and I will not be wasting my time here. I do want to return to Silver City soon, said Michael as he was straight to business. Okay Uncle Michael, said Naruto as he wasn't too happy, he wouldn't be with the girls when Kurama drops the bomb. Kurama appeared next to Michael. Still and but, he said as he looks at the girls. Let's go to the backyard and watch them and we can talk there, he told the two girls before him. They both nodded their heads as they followed after Naruto as his bossy uncle. Michael stood across from Naruto. Alright boy, focus and make your wings appear, he ordered. Naruto nodded his head and did as he was told. Kurama looked at the girls as they sat under a large old oak tree. Well, I know you two are wonder why I know those two boss summons, he asked them. Well yeah. They talk like you are one of them and have fought them on even ground, said Ino as she was trying to figure this out. Shikamaru just studied the red head before her. Naruto said something about a summons he had that the village would have a heart attack about if they ever seen it in the village walls. She said. Yes, said Kurama as he watched the little Nara try to figure it out. The only summons that I could think about that would have the villagers panicking would be a kitsune summons. Is that the summons you are tied to? Asked Shikamaru. Kurama grinned as he looked at the raven-haired girl before him. That I am. For I am the boss summons for them. For I am the Kyubi no Yoki as you humans call me. But I am also called the Kyubi no Kitsune as I am the nine-tail Biju that was forced to attack the village on the night that my kit was born, he told the two before him. Ino's and Shikamaru's eyes widen as they are sitting across a man that claims to be the strongest of all the tailed Bijus. But how? Asked Ino as Shika was thinking. There is a special seal on my kit that allows me out of him to take care of him. For his parents made me promise nothing bad will happen to him and the others have been covering me for so long to keep me off of missions as the DMN elders wanted to send me out of the village to get their hands on my kit and do Kami knows what to him. But they didn't know about me being sealed within him. Your Hokage just found out today as well. For I will be vanishing from the village once your team takes missions outside the village walls and the others will not be able to cover for me then, said Kurama. So that night you attack. Someone had forced you? Asked Shikamaru as she was trying to study him. Yes. I was made into a puppet by some DMN Uchiha that is Rouge. At the time. The only Rouge Uchiha from this village is Madara and he should be long dead. But things don't always go the way we think. But this Uchiha did have some of that man's chakra in him. But it wasn't the true Madara but a puppet for the BSTRD as well, said Kurama as the girls seemed to understand where he was coming from. Alright. It isn't your fault nor is it Naruto's. You both were just forced into things at the time out of your power. As he was a newborn and you under the control of an Uchiha. Said Shikamaru as she wrapped her mind around it all. I'm not going to treat Naruto any different, for I do see you two as your own two beings. She said. Kurama grinned and nodded his head. I always liked you and you're good for my kid. He said as he looked at Ino. Naruto is Naruto and you are Kurama, our pain in the as part-time sensei that loves making our lives a living hell in training. Said Ino as she just smirked, as this wasn't the worst thing she had ever heard. The worst was when the rumor began about Sasuke being gay. Which she is still wondering about, and about him really liking Naruto. Well, I'm glad you two took it better than the kid thought you were going to take it. For he feared that you would throw him away and fear him for having me within him. Said Kurama as he was proud of his kid's friends. Troublesome. Why would we do that? We grow up with him and you always around, and you have protected us from a few BSTRDS that tried attacking us at the part before any of the DMN Uchiha police showed their lazy asses up. Said Shikamaru as she wouldn't turn her back on him now. Kurama nodded his head and they watch as Michael throw Naruto around like a rag doll around the training ground. The Archangel wasn't holding his punches and was putting the boy through his own version of Hell Boot Camp. Silver City. Uriel appeared before God. He looked up at his father with a glare on his face. Father. Why didn't you send for me sooner? He questioned. God looked down at his disrespectful son. Uriel, I believe it at the time it would be good for you to spend some time down in the human world. But I was wrong for even being around your nephew, my very own grandson. You showed you only went down there for your own entertainment, for all the women you had spent nights with on missions, and when you leave the house when no one was looking. You basically answered the call for the sin of the flesh. Never once worried that something bad would befall your nephew. Lucifer walked into the room clapping his hands together as Kushina stood behind him as her hair was up in the air as if they had a mind of their own. Dear brother. I would have killed you the first time you stepped away from caring for my son. But my dear and lovely wife told me to give you a chance, for we all get stressed and need to relax in our own ways. But even now my wife regrets ever saying those words. Said Lucifer as he looked at a pissed-off Crimson-Eye Kushina. Now dear brother, please explain to me and father why you told my son those cold and harsh words. Asked Lucifer as a black flaming sword appeared in his hands. Naruto and Michael. Good, you are staying in the air longer. But you need to clean up all those openings in battle. Said Michael as he swung a wooden sword down on Naruto's head as said boy allowed his wings to fade away and he dropped from the sky as his wings reappeared behind his back. It's been 2 months since Uriel left and everyone in the house had relaxed a lot as well. All the angels haven't been taking on A-rank missions anymore. They've been able to just relax and aid in Naruto's training whenever Michael was done beating him into the ground. Trixie walked out of the house. Alright Michael, I need to boy. His team will be meeting up in 30 minutes and he needs to eat and shower. For we are taking a C-rank mission today. She called out at the blonde-hair Archangel. Michael looks down and glares at the angel that wishes to live with demons. Fine. We are done here anyways. He said as he landed on the ground and grabbed a towel to wipe away the sweat that was on his face. He looked up as he felt eyes on him. Trixie blushes as she looked away as she was caught staring at him. Michael smirked at her as he walked past her, just stopping for a brief second. Do you enjoy what you see? He asked her as he vanished into the house. Trixie's cheeks burned crimson from his words as she quickly turned away from Naruto as she saw him running to her. I'll meet you with the others. She said as she vanished. Naruto just blinked and shrugged his shoulders as he didn't see what happened between the two as he ran into the house to shower and find something to eat. As he saw Michael standing in the kitchen drinking a glass of milk without his shirt on. He just shook his head and ran past him and up the stairs to his room and to the shower. Hell. Lucifer looked at a bloody and beaten Uriel laying on the ground before him. I will make you regret how you made my son feel that night. He growled out. Uriel looked up at Lucifer spitting out the BLD from his mouth. He was shocked that his father allowed Lucifer to have him to take his PND of flesh from him and return him when he was done to face the punishment his very own father set for him as well. I don't give a DMN. He is a spoiled brat that expect us all to stop everyone for him. He growled out. Lucifer's eyes flashed crimson as his black wings opened behind him as horns appeared on his head. My son. My son has a pure heart and soul. The purest I have felt outside of Silver City since I was a boy myself. Before my fall. He growled out. He wasn't spoiled when he just wanted to spend time with you and learn what you have to offer him. Have you forgotten, you bloodily BSTRD? That you offered to go to Earth and train my son. Not for you to go and get a good F in. He said as he kicked Uriel across the room that had been his home for the past 2 months. Just be grateful father will not allow me to kick you. Said Lucifer as he turned and walked out of the room as the door closed and sealed shut. Outside stood Kushina as she looked up at her husband in his devil form. She softly smiled at him and placed her hand on his cheek as Lucifer tried to look away for her not to look at how ugly he believed himself to be. Lucifer, you are appealing to me. Said Kushina as she leaned up to him and kissed him on his lips softly. Lucifer's eyes widened with shock as his wife still found him appealing in his hideous form. He pulled Kushina into his arms and just held her until he was back to normal. Kushina looked up at him with a soft smile on her face. Training Ground 10. Naruto came running up to his 2 teammates as his hair was still wet from his quick shower. Hey guys. He called, waving to them. Shikamaru opened her eyes from where she was napping to see her boyfriend running up to them. As Ino looked up from the training scroll her summons had given her to study. Hey Naruto. Said Ino with a smile as she went back to her scroll. They still had about 15 minutes until Trixie or Maze showed up. Hey Narukuen. Said Shika as she sat up a little smiling at him. Sorry I was late, you too. Said Naruto as they like to meet early and train together. It's fine. It gave me the time I needed to look over this scroll. Said Ino as she figured she was going to get any more studying done and seals it away. Also I got to take a nice little nap before we do any of those DMN D-rank missions. Said Shikamaru as she let out a sigh. Naruto shook his head to his girlfriend's lazy antics. Yeah. But you could have been doing something. He told her. She narrowed her eyes at him. I have been training with my father since 6 a.m. He wants to make sure I can take care of myself on our first real mission outside of the village. As my summons have me up at 5 a.m. running laps and training. They have taken after my troublesome mother. She said as she just wanted to go back to sleep. Sounds like my training with my uncle Michael B. We start at 4 a.m. Said Naruto as he lays down and lays his head on Shika's lap as she plays with his wet locks. It appears your training ran late today. Said Shika as she looks down into his appealing eyes. Yeah, it did. He has me working more with my wings. Also battling in the sky, telling me that it is important for the future. Whatever that means. Said Naruto as he let a small yawn escape his lips. He really wanted a nap. But a life of a ninja was one of always being on your toes. But he felt relaxed and safe with his 2 teammates and knew they would protect him if he felt asleep, as they knew the same would be done for them with him. This was the sight that Trixie and Maze walked up on as they say Team 10 relaxing, chatting with each other with Naruto's head on Shikamaru's lap. Alright brats. We have a mission. We are going with Team 7 on a simple SCRT mission to the Land of Waves. Said Maze as she was now grinning. They all sat up. Really? Asked Naruto as he was shocked to hear this. Troublesome. Said Shikamaru as she didn't feel like dealing with an annoying fangirl. Oh great. Why? Sakura is going to be annoying and I don't want to deal with her. Said Ino as she let out a sigh. Maze grinned. It will be fine. She said, waving them off. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author AngelFallenDemon on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.